Hey everyone, it's Dr. Mina, and most of us are familiar with the concept of genes. Essentially, we know that our genes make us who we are, and based on our genetic code, we are more susceptible to having certain diseases or having brown hair or brown eye color or a certain kind of smile or a certain muscle build. We all know that, but what we don't know, and most of us aren't familiar with, is the concept of epigenetics. And epigenetics is an extremely important concept because when we first discovered the Genome Project that, hey, we have a genetic code and we can figure out diseases before they even manifest and who's more likely to get them versus someone who may not get them at all, that blew the medical paradigm completely out of the water. And where that was really good, it actually had a downside because now a lot of people attribute their poor health to their genetics. Now, this is where the concept of epigenetics really comes in handy, and this is actually what I really want to emphasize today and discuss in this video. Epigenetics is the concept that even though we do have a very specific genetic code, we have the ability to directly influence which genes turn on and which genes turn off. And what that means in layman's language is based on certain decisions that we make and lifestyle activities and foods that we put in, we can actually reduce the susceptibility of certain cancer genes from turning on. We can increase certain genetic codes to turn on for certain positive health benefits and longevity. And this is really important because whereas before a lot of us said, hey, I'm just more susceptible to getting breast cancer, and that is true, based on what you do day to day, you can actually increase your risk of getting cancer or reducing cancer. And the way this was actually discovered was through research of twins. So twins actually have a completely identical genetic code. And this is a very interesting and mind-blowing concept. And what the researchers have found is that twins that were separated from birth and lived in different, parts of the world or with different families and different, lifestyles and different exposures to the environment, if you looked at their lives 25, 50 years afterwards, they were very different. Even though they have the exact same genetic codes, that one twin who maybe was more blessed to live in a clean environment with good food, with a lot of love and very little stress, had the genes turn on for longevity and heart health and having a slim waist and being healthy, whereas another twin who maybe was put in foster care or had a lot of stressful stimuli, or they had to do a lot of physical labor, things like that, and they maybe were smoking or drinking or didn't consume good, healthy, whole foods, you see that their genetic expression was turned on for a very negative thing. And the craziest thing about what we can do with our own epigenetics is not only do we have complete control over that to a very large capacity, but we can actually give that epigenetic code to our children when we reproduce. And this is mind-blowing. So a really good example of this is with me personally. So I am 100% Egyptian, purebred Egyptian. And my family and their grandparents, and you can trace it all the way down to probably the pharaohs, were Egyptian. Okay, and here I live and practice in Wisconsin, where the weather gets unbelievably cold. And what I have been able to do, and this is something I would love to make a video for in the near future, through certain types of breathing, through cold exposures, through cold showers, I've been able to turn on certain genetic expressions that allowed me to tolerate the cold really, really well. As a matter of fact, and you can ask a few of my colleagues about this too, but there was a point in a Wisconsin winter where I would go swimming outside till mid-November, and I would go buy groceries, go to work, do whatever I would normally do without a jacket and with a short sleeve shirt, and even rolling down the windows. So things got a little bit crazy where I was turning on my genetic code to allow me to be able to handle the cold, whereas before just a little gust of wind and my hands would get really freezing and my fingernails will turn blue and all of a sudden I'm shaking and shivering. So not only was that a real life example where in 6 months I was able to do that, but also we can see that this kind of effect happens to people, not just to cold exposure, but heat exposure, and not just to heat exposure, but your ability to tolerate stress, for, you know, your ability to fight certain genes that when they turn on, they make you more anxious, or they make you more depressed, or they increase your susceptibility for heart disease or certain cancers. And so I really encourage you guys to really internalize this information. So realize that even though we may have a genetic kind of coding or subscription or something that tells us, okay, we're more likely to get this disease or, you know, develop that later on in life or maybe early on in life, I don't want you to feel discouraged by that, because we actually do have the ability to a very large degree to take responsibility for that and choose to live and do and think in a certain way that can allow us to have the best opportunity to heal and to be healthy and to not just have quantity of life but quality of life. Okay, so what are some things that we can do? And it's going to really come down to 3 things, and it always has come down to these 3 things: the way we think, the way we eat, and the way we move. No matter what, no matter how complicated, no matter how glamorous it is, it's always going to boil down to these 3 foundational principles. And hopefully what this channel can do to you is I want to give you content about all 3 of these topics. So anytime you guys want to learn something about what are some ways you can cultivate positive thinking or positive mind frame, not where you lose touch with reality, where, you know, your life is falling apart and the world is burning and you're like, everything's gonna be okay. Not like that at all, but to a healthy degree where you can see the opportunities in everyday life, where you can see the little miracles that are happening in front of you, where you can seize the moment and embrace it, and you can look back on your life and say, wow, I lived a really colorful life and I have no regrets. The other thing I really hope to be able to provide to you is ways of eating that are going to be healthy. And this is not necessarily anecdotal evidence like my cold therapy, even though there is a large trend of people who are doing that now. And if you want to know more about that, research Wim Hof method or look at cold showers. You'll find a ton of articles and YouTube videos of other people who have done experiments like that to turn on certain epigenetics and get the benefits of cold therapy, which there are many, and I can't wait to talk to you about that. So positive thinking, healthy thinking, putting in foods that are really good for you, that reduce inflammation, that allow us to have healthy genetic expression. Because really what we often forget is our body doesn't build itself from nothing. It builds itself from the things that we put in. So if I put in junk food all the time, my cells are going to be made out of the things that my body gets from the junk food. Whereas if I put in green leafy vegetables and healthy fats and consume the right supplements and all that good stuff, then our cells, our DNA, our genes are all going to be made from the plants and the fats that are good and all these things. And then the last point, of course, is movement. And there's a lot of things to talk about that, because we now more than ever are very stationary. Even me recording this video, I am getting a nice little workout, moving my arms and doing hand expressions, but really most of us are on the computer and we're sitting for a long period of time, or we're working on a desk, or like me a few years ago, I was studying most of my days. So I was sitting in school full time, and then I come home and I'm studying with a pen and pencil, and I'm looking down and I'm carrying a heavy backpack. And this is actually very normal for people nowadays. And so the way we move is going to be very important, because we want to undo that tension on the spine, on the nervous system, on our backs, on the muscles, on the joints, so that we can have longevity and prevent any development of issues such as headaches or achiness or disproportional muscle balance that are going to throw everything off and put more tension on certain joints, which is going to lead to arthritic changes, and it just all goes downhill from there. So positive thinking, putting in good healthy foods into your body, and moving the right way. And all these things are very simple and very easy to do, but it's very it can be a little bit difficult to do them consistently. And they say knowledge is power, but I really think that that quote should be updated to say that action is power. You can learn a ton of things, and this is the day and age where we have a ton of information about just about everything. No matter how far out there it is, there is going to be some kind of information pertaining to that topic. However, when it comes down to action, that's the hardest part. So hopefully some of these videos can break down some of the things that you can do, some of these action steps, so that you can actually do it as soon as you finish watching the video. And if you need a little bit of inspiration, hopefully some of these videos will, turn on something or change your perception on something else and inspire you and lead you to live a life that you want to live, and with the health that you want to have, so that you can do the things that you love with the people that you love. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for listening. I know this was a little bit of a longer video. If you did find this information useful, which I really hope it was, epigenetics is a topic that's rarely discussed in the health field, and it's just on the surface of the most current research, and so it's something that I think you guys will be hearing more and more about. And I hope that this is something that you can use practically in your day-to-day life. And if you know anyone that would really benefit from learning about epigenetics, feel free to share this with them or tag them in the comments. And of course, feel free to like and subscribe, so that way when I produce more videos for you, you stay right on top of the ball, and we continue progressively, slowly but surely moving in the right direction with our nutrition, with our thinking, and with our moving. All right, guys, take it easy.